D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason is not here yet. Adam Vingan, David Janes with you, and we are proudly presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Derek Mason will be along shortly.
I can't wait to hear.
Had some car trouble.
Right. But D-Mace usually has a good story about the car trouble. And, of course, we all can appreciate the frustration of a flat tire, which I believe was part of the equation here.
That was the reason for the delay.
Yes.
He has a flat tire, and he had to change cars.
But you notice he didn't say, I got to change the tire, because I don't think any of us really like to do that, even if, like, I believe I could do it. I just don't like to do it.
I am not.
And I usually, the last few times I've tried to do it, I have run into some issues. Like the lug nuts are just on there too tight. I cannot get it off, or something that I'm not, my technique is slow and it's slowing the process down. It's hot outside or it's cold outside. I've just had all kinds of problems, but I have been very lucky that somebody has come along just in the area that has come to my rescue and said, you're doing it wrong. Or here, let me help you. And as soon as that person says, can I help you with that? I said, yes, go right ahead. Here you go.
I am not afraid to admit that I do not know how to change a tire. I just pulled out my AAA card, which says that I'm a 41-year member. By the way, I'm 36 years old, but I am a 41-year member.
So you're going to be a member for the next 41 years?
No, my family has been members of AAA for 41 years.
So you jumped on the bandwagon of your family.
I had 5 years of loyalty before I was even born, according to this card. Nevertheless,
I have the phone number.
I rely on the experts.
Okay.
To help change my flat
I'm proud
tires.
to say that I have done it. So I can be in the club that says, yes, I know how to change a tire.
I definitely
don't prefer. I don't prefer to do it. So we'll have to get where D-Mace is on this.
Derek will join us.
Derek
shortly.
for sure is a AAA guy.
You think so?
For sure.
You think so?
Like he knows how to change a tire, but like
D-Mace?
he will definitely call AAA.
Yeah. And he has apparently the ability to switch cars. I don't know how he needed somebody to help him out with that, right? Or do you think it was just when he got to his car this morning, it was flat, or he started down the road, realized we had a problem, was able to come back? We have to get the story here.
We will get full details
Full details
from Derek Mason as soon as he arrives. So up on the screen in the studio, First Take is on, and in the bottom left-hand corner.
Oh, we have the countdown.
31 hours, 55 minutes, and 6 seconds. Now 5 seconds. Now 4 seconds.
Oh, my gosh.
Now 3 seconds. Now
oh, my
2
gosh.
seconds.
Can you feel it? The
now
tension.
1 second. 31 hours and 55 minutes. 31 hours and 55 minutes. Now it's 31, 54, 55.
I just tell you?
Yes.
There are a lot of really good baseball games on today. There's great NHL playoffs. There's great NBA playoffs. This is a great, underrated time to watch sports on TV. You do not have to sit there in anticipation of the draft.
But we do
don't
anticipate
have to do
the
it.
draft. And speaking of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I do want to give a quick shout out. I want to give a shout out to Carolina Hurricanes fans. Yesterday, Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, who is clearly into him because of his personality.
Oh, yes.
For
and
sure.
how old is she?
24.
24, I believe, yeah.
I think she's 25. Let's give her.
Did she turn 25?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Nevertheless,
and Bill Belichick is 70-something?
Bill Belichick and his child bride were at the Carolina Hurricanes playoff game against the New Jersey Devils. And he was wearing a Carolina blue jacket because he is the
he
head
represents
coach
the Tar Heels
of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
In the triangle.
Right. And for those of you who don't know, the Carolina Hurricanes share an arena with NC State, a bitter rival of North Carolina. So when Bill Belichick and his 20-something girlfriend were shown on the scoreboard, they booed him. And I just want to say, bravo. The ACC allegiances do not die during the offseason. Bill Belichick, you can't show up to Raleigh wearing a Carolina blue jacket. You can't do it.
So I have a question about this.
Yes.
Because I'm sure there's some North Carolina maybe some Duke fans, maybe some Wake Forest fans. I
There-
don't know. There's
there's-
probably some people who
There's
also
definitely some
they
crossover.
align. They
Yes.
align with the Hurricanes. It's the
Correct.
only hockey team anywhere close. So everybody bands together, just like there's Tennessee fans and Vanderbilt fans and Alabama fans that all band together to cheer for the Predators. So I'm sure it was not 100% of the people booing. So if Belichick had come in with a Carolina, of course, Carolina wears red and black, just like NC State is red and black. So that's probably what his dilemma is. He might have just been thinking, I'm just going to stand out in the crowd. Everybody's going to be wearing red. I'm going to be the guy wearing Carolina blue, and I don't care what people think. So if he goes Carolina Hurricanes sweatshirt, is he in bounds with that? Would he have avoided getting booed? Or do you think the Carolina people, that like the North Carolina people, UNC would have said, what is he doing wearing red? Those are NC State colors. You can't wear that. Like, he could have been in a no-win situation. True?
That's fair. That's fair. By the way, Nate on our text line says it's not surprising Vingan calls AAA for a flat tire. I'm not afraid to admit it, that I need a professional's help to change a flat tire. I'm sorry.
We're not going to shame AAA calls.
Right.
Yeah. So take that, Nate. I don't know
Right.
what you can't do. What if I came to your place
Yeah.
of business and told you all about all the things that you can't do?
We all have our strengths and weaknesses, right?
Right.
Right.
And my strength is that I am not afraid to admit that I need help
You're
changing
secure.
a flat tire.
You're
Speaking of flat tires,
You're
Derek
secure
Mason.
within your own skin.
Yes.
So would you have not booed Belichick?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy.
You would have booed Belichick regardless,
Yes.
because you're a hardcore anti-UNC anything.
Yes.
So even if he came with the Hurricanes jersey,
Right.
he would not have avoided your wrath. with
He
that.
would not have avoided
Okay.
my wrath.
I've often wondered that. I saw Kevin Stallings one time when he was coaching Vanderbilt's basketball team watch a College World Series game that involved Vanderbilt. First time they'd ever been to the College World Series. But the first game they played was against North Carolina, and the catcher for North Carolina was Jacob Stallings. So that's a dilemma, right? So what do you wear to the game? So he famously said, I'm not wearing the colors of either school. I'm just here as a dad. I'm not wearing Vanderbilt. I'm not wearing North Carolina. I'm just here to watch my son and Vanderbilt play.
By the way, Nate texted back in and said, I'm not a good writer, so you can crush me on that, LOL. Well, thank you for acknowledging that, Nate. Derek Mason is here.
Okay.
We need to know what the
Now
heck
we
happened.
need to, now we need to find out.
Okay. Willie, well, I will say you've worked with me the longest. We've had many conversations. And what you said was exactly what happened. I got in my car, and as I'm driving, get out my little area. As I'm driving, that light comes
Yeah,
on.
we got a warning
Which
light.
technology is so great, because back in the day, we wouldn't have known that. Not until we got to our other destination, or we heard the whoa, 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 whoa,
Right.
whoa. Then we would have known we had a flat tire. But left my area, going down the street, and this light comes on, and it's bright red, and I get out the
So
car.
it's not the yellow light. It's, hey,
It's red.
red. We
It's
got a
red.
problem.
It's like -6. So I'm like, is it flat? I don't hear anything. So I get out the car. I check. It still has air, but it has a nail in it. So it's so I said, can I make it to work? So I started to go a little bit more, and then the air pressure started to go down a little bit. I said, let me turn around. So I wasn't far enough away from home. So I turned around, dropped my car off at the house. Luckily, my son was there, so I took his car.
Okay.
And
You had a relief.
yeah.
You had a relief pitcher in the bullpen.
had a relief pitcher. So, he told me he was a little hesitant about giving me his car too. He was a little hesitant.
He's
was
like, hey, wait a minute. That means I have no wheels.
no
My
he
wheels are
has,
gone.
he has there's another vehicle there,
So there's okay. So he has,
but
an
that
option.
vehicle was blocked.
He
and I-
just he
yeah.
just didn't want you to have his car.
Exactly. Absolutely. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna say to you what you say to me when you take my car. I'm just gonna say the dash is a $180 on it. I might test it. And as I'm walking out the house, I was like, run.
Well, Derek, we're
Uh,
glad you made
Yeah,
it.
so
and
I'm here.
Just in time.
But by the way, I'm the guy that will notice that there's a nail in the tire and the light's on saying you got a tire problem. You need to get this fixed. And I'll just keep driving. I'll
Same.
make it.
That's me.
I'll
Yeah.
make it. I think I can make it.
It's not about
It's okay now.
It's not about making
doesn't
it.
look
It's
flat.
making it back.
Your
And
Kramer,
then the next day, it's
your
completely flat,
Yes.
or one of these days, it's totally gone, and you're high and dry.
your Kramer with the gas tank, right? Seeing how far you can
Yeah.
go on the empty
Well,
gas
I'm
tank.
definitely Kramer with the gas tank. I'll
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you that right now.
We are now, what is it now? 31 hours, 47 minutes,
Oh,
and
yes.
56 seconds from the NFL draft.
The
And yesterday we heard from the Titans Brain Trust, Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, and Brian Callahan. And the most newsworthy thing that they said is that they are locked in at number 1. Don't bother calling other teams to trade up to number 1. Remember yesterday we were talking about the door was never opened. Now the door has been slammed shut. It's been locked. It's been deadbolted. Their credenza has been pushed up against the door to make sure that nobody can get in. Nobody's taking that number 1 pick from the Tennessee Titans. And we all expect it to be in 31 hours, 47 minutes, and 14 seconds, Cam Ward. But there were some other noteworthy things that Borgonzi and Brinker said. And there were 2 comments, one from each of them, that I think caused a lot of angst in Titans world. Let's start with Mike Borgonzi about never wanting to force a need in the draft.
Both of you, Mike, you said you want to be directed by need, but there's clearly not a top number 1 edge rusher on this team. You're clearly thin at wide receiver. How are you not directed by need given those 2 key positions and where you stand?
Yeah, and that's part of staying true to the board. I think you're trying to marry up the need with the value too. You never want to force a need in the draft. And for us, we do have a lot of needs, so I think it's important for us to stay true to the board and really take the best available player, at that pick. But for us, like I said, we don't want to force needs here and force a pick based on that.
So that was Mike Borgonzi.
Mm-hmm.
Chad Brinker spoke to the same thing during the next question.
On needs not directing you at those 2 positions?
Yeah, I think, I feel the same way. I mean, you want to take the best player available. Everybody says that. Not everybody follows that. The times in my career where I've seen we've made mistakes, either earlier in my career to even some of my mentors, when you kind of reach on a player based off need. Like Mike just said, I mean, we got a lot of needs. So we're just going to, we're going to trust the process. We're going to trust the board. We're going to let the board talk to us. The work has been done. We're prepared. Now the draft is unpredictable at times, and I know we're picking at the top, so maybe a little bit more of an understanding of who might be there, who might not be there. But at the same time, we're prepared for whatever comes at us, and we just got to take the best player.
They've got to take the best player. You never want to force a need in the draft. And then serendipitously, Chip from Mount Juliet texts in on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com and asks the question that many Titans fans are asking after hearing those comments. Chip says, tell me this. How can Cam Ward be drafted by the Titans when they said they aren't drafting by need, but drafting the best available player? Ward is not even close to being among the top players in the draft.
This is what we've been setting up for weeks now, right? This has been the central question for weeks.
Correct. But hearing that from Brinker and Borgonzi days before the draft, when we've talked about the big boards and where Cam Ward is on the big boards and how based on those rankings, he should not be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. But as we get closer, again, we are 31 hours, 44 minutes, and 16 seconds away. I'm just going to keep a running tally of that throughout the show. Now that we're that close, I think it's really that. I think there's that fear, that feeling of impending doom that Jared Stillman was talking about yesterday as a lifelong Titans fan. I think now that the draft is here, I think that angst has been ratcheted up to 11.
The existential question is, doesn't every fan base pretty much have that fear for the most part, unless you are, a Yankees fan or, a bandwagon fan and just follow teams that are good. But this is D-Mace, you were saying, we asked the question on the air to one another, like, are you making the case that Cam Ward is the best player on your board? Or are you just, good? Well, I mean, that's I guess what they're saying is Cam Ward is the best on their board.
And again, it's it's perception is reality in this case. And the Titans have helped with this perception. Everyone out there perceives the Titans as being a team that doesn't evaluate the way they need to. Hence, the first round picks that are no longer on this team, or guys that have busted. Whether it be the free agency, more importantly, the draft. And they look at the Titans and they say, well, we don't trust that you are going to pick the right person. So you think that Cam Ward, if there were more people that thought that Cam Ward was worthy of the number 1 pick, because teams are not coming, because here's the crazy part about it. Teams are not coming out saying that. There's no GM on the record that has come out and said, unless I'm missing something, but there's no GM that has come out and said Cam Ward wasn't, he's not worthy of the number 1 pick. Now we get these, anonymous sources. I get that.
There was one GM who, according to Adam Schefter, said that he did not have a first-round grade on any of the quarterbacks.
Right.
But that's
But
just
that's,
one.
But that's the unique thing about this, and that's why it's a fair topic. It's
Exactly.
a fair topic because the experts that do this every year, you choose the ones that you think are the best at it. There's dozens of them. None of them have him as their best guy when you're looking at straight up talent on the board. It is. So if you are going simply on, quote, best player available, you would not pick Cam Ward.
No, it's yes, if we're looking at it from a group standpoint. But the Titans, Borgonzi and Brinker said it. They have a bunch of holes that they need to fill, a bunch of needs. And, you don't want to draft necessarily based upon need, because that may have you doing something that you shouldn't be doing. But not only do you have a need at this position, you, in your mind, your organization believes he's the best guy for your organization. That's all that matters. Again, it goes back to you not trusting the Tennessee Titans. It's not that you don't trust, Cam Ward to come in here and be a good quarterback. You just don't trust the Titans. So if that's the case, you don't trust the Titans that they would develop anybody, let alone the quarterback. But I think it's easier to accept not developing a DB or wide receiver or offensive lineman than it is a quarterback. The Titans believe, if indeed the stories are true, that they will draft Cam Ward number 1. People, they believe he's the best player in the draft at a position of need, a position that will get you closer and quicker to winning than any other position out there. So listen, I don't understand why people are upset about this. I don't think nobody thinks he's a horrible quarterback. Everybody thinks he's a good quarterback. So why are you upset to have it? We haven't had a good quarterback in a very long time, okay? Ryan Tannehill was really the last really good quarterback this team has had. So for a fan base that hasn't had a quarterback and a radio show host that hasn't had a quarterback, why are y'all complaining about a good quarterback, a quarterback that everybody believes will be good in this league? Why are y'all fussing about that?
It's a dilemma. It's a dilemma because he's not.
Exactly.
Nobody even has Cam Ward as 2 or 3, or it's debatable.
He's around 7 or 8.
He's clearly down below number 1. So it's not the Titans' fault that they're in this position.
Yes, it is.
Well, yes, it is. But it's not the Titans can't control who comes out in the draft. And their need at quarterback, the fact that he's the only quarterback that looks like he's worthy, really, of a high first round pick. Let's say that a high first round pick, but he's definitely not the ideal 1-1 first overall.
There's been a lot of not ideal 1-1s that did bad and that did good.
But they have admitted themselves they have a lot of needs, which would include edge rusher and which would include a dominant cornerback, right?
615-737-1025. Why don't you all answer the question that Derek just asked? 615-737-1025. We've been doing our Cam Ward temperature checks throughout the week. Now that we are,
I feel like the temperature just went up a little bit.
it did.
It did.
Now
think
that
the
we
flat
are
tire has
31
DJ's
hours,
ready.
38 minutes, and 17 seconds away from the start of the NFL draft, let's get your Cam Ward temperature check. 615-737-1025. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Nashville Sounds take on the Durham Bulls at First Horizon Park. Pre-game begins at 6:20 and the first pitch is at 6:35. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure.
Let me get in here for a second. And Jamie, I'll get in here with a question.
Oh, no.
And this is a question to you, Jamie, to Cody, to everybody in the country, to everybody covering the draft. Are we allowed to talk about Cam Ward? Is it okay if I do that? Are they going to pull us off the air if we don't have a segment that is exclusively about one of the Colorado guys? My gosh, Cam Ward is the least covered #1 overall pick in history. And he's not some forgotten about old lineman from some dopey program. He's a quarterback from Miami, and you are pulled off the air by the FAA if you even talk about him. I don't understand what's going on here. The Jaguars took Trayvon Walker a few years ago. I'm not sure he's been mentioned in a television segment since then. And he was more talked about than Cam Ward. I'm old enough to remember 2013, Eric Fisher was taken number 1 out of Central Michigan, a lineman from the MAC. And he was Peyton Manning compared to Cam Ward. I get it. I understand why. Maybe the Titans don't jump off the marquee for you. Maybe there's not a fight and everything has to be a debate and we have to fill segments with fighting. Should it be this guy or that guy? And there is no debate. But isn't that a credit to Cam Ward? Shouldn't we at least take one hot second and say, wow, this Cam Ward's guy is pretty good? And shouldn't we know just a little bit more about him? We know a lot about Shedeur Sanders. I know Cam Ward's father is not a football coach that's very famous and we used to have video games in his own shoe and everything. I know his father's also named Calvin and his wife Patrice. They go to every single one of Cam Ward's games. Cam Ward's favorite food are Pop-Tarts. On Cam Ward's pregame playlist is Kodak Black. And you know what? Maybe the draft story isn't that compelling. His story is compelling. Understand this. The guy that no one's talking about was a 0-star recruit out of high school, just like the reigning MVP Josh Allen. He went to Incarnate Word, not for some cup of coffee before he entered the portal. He was there for 2 years, playing, taking hits, growing. And then he jumps up and he's now the number 1 overall pick. This is an incredible story. And the story about the story is the audacity of people to say that the draft starts at pick number 3. No, it starts at 1. With Cam Ward, the best player in the draft, who will be drafted number 1 overall. And I'm sorry, we're going to have to pay some sort of fine or fee because we talked about him on the air the week of the draft. Apologies. I'm going to do it again later in the week, too. It's great to be back.
That was Kyle Brandt of NFL Network with an impassioned plea for Cam Ward. Speaking of impassioned, our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's just roll through some of these. One texter says, D-Mace, just say it. You're okay with them reaching for a quarterback. No need to sell it that it's not a reach. Just admit it's a reach and hope it works out. One texter says, he's the best quarterback. Quarterback is the most important position. We need a quarterback. One texter says, people are upset because the Titans also just told us Levis was a franchise guy when everyone around the league didn't believe in him, and you know how that went. Dave in Kentucky. You can get a Cam Ward anywhere in the draft or free agency. Travis Hunter is a can't-miss athlete. The Titans are messing this up. One texter, Cam is a better prospect than Caleb Williams, in my opinion. His mentality is far superior. So a wide range of opinions.
Well, I mean, listen, if you could get a Cam Ward anywhere in the draft, it would have been Cam Ward's. The Titans would have moved out of the first pick. Of the draft, they felt they could have got a Cam Ward anywhere. When you say that, that is just a total disrespect to what he has been able to accomplish in his 4 years in college, 2 at Incarnate Word, and then Washington State, and then what he was able to do at the University of Miami. I'm not sure. Listen, Titan fans, y'all are right to be upset and frustrated. I'm frustrated with the team the way they have been. But I mean, again, there's not a Caleb Williams coming. Guys that you just knew, like, okay, yeah, he's the surefire number 1 guy. Everybody knows it. He's not projected to be Joe Burrow. He's not projected to be Jaden Daniels. But this is a good young quarterback. And you just hope that, and this is probably where it really truly lands or lies. You just hope that the Titans can do a good job at developing him. You got a best quarterback, but if you don't develop him, either he's not going to last or it's going to take longer for him to sort of reach that point where he can lead a team.
Willie, I want to read from a column from Gentry Estes in the Tennessean because I think he hits on what a lot of Titans fans are feeling. Gentry Estes writes, quote, we've grown so accustomed to the Tennessee Titans botching important decisions in recent years in the NFL draft and otherwise that it has become instinctive during the franchise's slide to the bottom for fans to expect the worst, to listen for that one statement that causes doubt, knowing it'll get brought back up endlessly when things don't work out. He mentions the quotes that we played at the top of the show. He continues, Gentry Estes does, quote, nearly all pre-draft rankings have Ward down the list a bit in terms of top prospects. Not too far down, mind you, but far enough to where one could easily surmise that the Titans drafting him number one overall would indeed be a reach that was based on a need at quarterback. So to accept the Titans' own comments as authentic leaves only two possibilities. Either they are going to shock everyone and select Travis Hunter, or they truly do see Ward as the best player available in the 2025 NFL draft. For the Titans' sake, I hope the latter is true.
Well, I think they were one thing they can convey yesterday, because they can't come out and say we're going to take Cam. I guess they could have. I guess they could have said we're taking Cam Ward. They all but did that yesterday, because they didn't shy away from any questions, and everybody kind of couched their questions like, Teron, if you take a quarterback, they prefaced the questions. There were a lot of people like that. I think they showed how much they are aligned in this decision, right? There was no, well, who has the final say? They said, we have a consensus. You can stop calling. We've had a few offers, but this is what we really believe in. So that's that part of it. But I think it's a tough argument to really sell based, unless you're telling me everybody else is wrong. And you might. Here's another stat to keep aware of. As part of the equation, right? It's so easy to just say, well, if you want best player available, take the best player available. I don't think it's quite that simple. If you want to go nuance to it, I was listening to, is it called Moving the Change? Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks. What's the name of that podcast? Moving the Sticks, I think it's called.
I think it's Moving the Sticks.
Moving the Sticks. Okay. Two guys that really are good at this. They've had their job. They've been scouts. They've been talent evaluators for a long time. Both of them agreed that Cam Ward is nowhere near the top of the list.
It is indeed Move the Sticks.
Move the Sticks.
Yes.
They agreed that he's nowhere near the top of the draft as overall talent. He's not number one. He's somewhere 8, he's 10, he's 13. We've done all the consensus of where he lies. But this is also true. Cam Ward is also by far the only legitimate, clear-cut, first-round caliber quarterback in this draft. Everybody else who is a quarterback is a question mark, either a reach as a first-round pick, severely flawed. And then they pointed this out. If you go back 10 years, there are only 4 quarterbacks not drafted in the first round that have really done anything of note. Jalen Hurts is one. Brock Purdy is one. I'm trying to remember the other two. We can think about it, but it is extremely rare. First round, most quarterbacks, by far, the overwhelming percentage of successful quarterbacks were drafted in the first round. Yes, there's an occasional Brock Purdy, an occasional Tom Brady.
Dak Prescott is one of them for sure. Those guys are very, very rare. So when you need a quarterback and there's a good one there, that's the dilemma that you're in. And so I don't think it's a terrible decision to do this, but I think at the same token, it's the right question to ask, because they clearly feel like this is a quarterback that can be a really good quarterback that they believe in. And even though he is probably not graded as a guy who is best talent at the top, they also pointed out this is important to remember.
By the way, one texter says Kirk Cousins. Was Kirk Cousins the other quarterback that not drafted in the first round?
Yeah, he was one I moved about.
Well, there was also a distinction of all pro or something like that. I guess that's right. Kirk Cousins was not a first round pick, I guess. The other point that I thought was worthwhile, and now I forgot it, but that they pointed out. But I think that's really where it lies, right? Is I think very likely they need to pick high again next year, the Titans. So it was like, do we take the quarterback, the bird in hand right now, and then address everything else next year based on all of the factors here, who's available? Because I think it's going to take a couple years regardless of who you pick.
Gary from Clarksville on our text line says, could it be a possibility that the Titans are employing a smokescreen and end up either trading back or choosing someone else like Travis Hunter? I've said this before. I don't know Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi, This is their first time really up front in terms of the decision-making process. I'm not going to discount the possibility that they are evil geniuses, mad scientists, and that they have the entire league fooled. I'm going to take them at their word that they are not trading the number 1 pick. It would be a Machiavellian scheme if they were able to pull the wool over everybody's eyes after all of this and trade the pick before tomorrow.
Listen, I just think that this team, let's just say the Titans don't have him number 1. Let's say they have a number 2. Let's say they are going into this thing and it's close. That it's Travis Hunter and Cam Ward, and they have them both close. But they feel that taking a quarterback, even though we got him second, gets us to where we want to get to faster. There are a lot of great DBs out there and a lot of great wide receivers, and a lot of them were sitting at home. Why? Because they didn't have a quarterback, or they didn't have that guy. So maybe they're thinking is, well, maybe he's not the first overall, but he's our number 2, and he's our top quarterback. So we're not going to take Travis Hunter. We're not going to take Abdul Carter, which I wouldn't. The foot just scares me off, especially at number 1. But maybe they feel as if this guy, we believe he's the quarterback. He's going to get us to where we need to go quicker than Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. There are a lot of good teams that have good individual players, but if you don't have that quarterback, a quarterback that can win, he doesn't necessarily have to be an elite quarterback, but if you don't have a quarterback that can win, then it's going to be hard. And until you get that guy, you're going to continue. Ask the Dallas Cowboys. They got players littered everywhere. And look at them. You can ask other places. Minnesota, barely, they got put out in the first round. And they had the best wide receiver in the game.
All right, Adam, before I forget my point again, this was the last one from the Move the Sticks I thought was pertinent here. Very rarely is the number 1 prospect on the board the most talented overall player in the draft. So this is not the first time this has happened.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction because we have a lot of it. Get in on the action at 615-737-1025. You can join our very own Robbie Stanley and 1025 The Game from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor in White House this Saturday for Kubota Orange Days. There will be exclusive deals on compact tractors, 0 turns, and more, with special financing available. Sale runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. with demos, deals, giveaways, and lunch from 11 to 1. That's at the Coleman Tractor of White House, located at 3631 Highway 31 West this Saturday. D. Mace Fingan and Donick, 1025, 1063 the game. Nashville's best deal this week is Fog Street Lawn Club, Nashville's premier soccer pub and rooftop. Fog Street Lawn Club offers scrumptious bites, British lawn bowling, and premier soccer pub vibes. Get half off a $30 gift card now at theGameNashville.com/deals and dive into the ultimate rooftop experience. Let's go to our phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com. Trey has been waiting patiently. Trey, thank you for holding. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, how y'all doing today?
Good.
Hey, Trey.
Hey buddy. Hey, I was just wanting to say, like the other day when TD filled in, we was talking about Cam, and he said that 6 and 11, if he's is successful, would that be a good year? And I was just like, I'll concede. If he does well, I'll concede. And if they decide to take him, all I can do is back the young man. I think Derek probably is on the same page as that. But I just wanted to ask y'all, would you, if you was GM in Bergonzi's position, would you make the pick? And I want to start off with Derek with that, and then Adam and Willie can answer. I just want to know because y'all haven't answered it, but I just want to know. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks,
you.
Trey. By the way, if they
Thank
go
you, Trey.
6 and 11, they would double their win total from 3 to 6.
Is that good? Like,
Yeah, is that-
would you? This is a question for the summer. Is would you
Yes.
rather have them win 3 or 4 than pick in the top 3 to 5 next year, or win a surprisingly high amount, 6 or 7? The over under is probably going to be 5.5 at best,
Yeah.
right? Well, let's table that for the offseason because would you rather than pick 11th or 12th or 3rd or 4th?
So let's answer the question that Trey asked. If we were Mike Borgonzi, would we make the pick? And he wanted Derek
Mhm.
to start first. So, Derek, if you were Mike Borgonzi, would you be taking Cam Ward?
From what I've
number one
seen,
overall?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. I lean towards yes as well. I seriously believe that Cam Ward, I've mentioned this a few times over the course of the past number of months. I seriously believe that Cam Ward is being dragged down by the rest of the quarterback class. That people see this quarterback class as significantly weaker than recent history. Recent quarterback classes. Last year, for example, gets brought up quite a bit. And where would Cam Ward rank if he were in the quarterback class last year? I seriously believe that Cam Ward is being slighted because the quarterbacks in this class are worse than in previous classes. So I'm also of the mind that it's just as risky because we've had some texters say, well, throw Levis back out there and they'll be bad again and we'll be right back in this position next year. First of all, you don't know that. There could be other teams worse than you next season, as hard as it is to believe. And it just feels like it could be a vicious cycle because let's say the Titans do that. Let's say the Titans did take Travis Hunter and they went back to Will Levis and they went 3-14 again and they had the number 1 pick in the draft and the top quarterback in the class is Arch Manning. But there are questions about Arch Manning. Hey, Arch Manning, he's number 8 on the big board. Arch Manning, he's number 10 on the big board. Are you just going to say, well, let's think again and go to 2027? I just think that if you have the opportunity to draft a quarterback that you believe in, and the Titans seem to believe in him, I say go for it. I'm not like pounding my fist on the table. He's a slam dunk, but I think there's just as much risk passing on Cam Ward as there is taking him.
But again, I think it's not necessarily the player, because Will and I were talking off air, at the beginning during the first break, and I think if the Titans were to move down to 2 or 1, say they move down to 3, 2 to 3, and probably got a 3rd round pick in place of the one they don't have, and they still drafted Cam Ward, I think people would be okay. People would be okay with that. Okay, yeah, we still got our quarterback. We were able to move down, but we were able to get a 3rd round pick for it.
That would be my answer to Trey's question.
But
I
what-
would have played it. Because this is what I see from afar. I haven't done the research, but my philosophy, I have been won over by the research that's been done that your probabilities are better by trading down and getting more picks. This organization desperately needs more picks. So they've clearly fallen in love with Cam Ward.
he has won them over. They believe in Cam Ward. For me, I would trade down, even if it were just a notch or two, and take what I could get. And if Cam Ward's still there, sure, I'd take him. But if somebody wants to jump up and take Cam Ward, and I could live with Hunter or Abdul Carter, that's what I would do. That is my answer to Trey's question. I would trade down and take what I could get, and then take the best player available.
Matt in Columbia says, I'll make this easy. Any team that needs a quarterback would definitely take him if he was available.
And that's the way I feel. If Cleveland they needed a quarterback,
which they do,
but they may not think that, okay, we can survive with Joe Flacco, or we can survive with, any other quarterback that we have.
Right. They're not willing to jump up there and give up a lot.
Yeah, they're not willing to give up a lot.
Which should tell you something.
But if he fell to him at 2, I'm pretty sure they would probably rethink it, like, oh, we can get him at 2. And I'm thinking any other team, the Giants, if Cam Ward fell to them, the New Orleans Saints, if Cam Ward fell to them, or if they were able to move up a little bit to still be able to get him because the Titans chose not to draft him first overall. I think sometimes we are looking at this from the standpoint of he's not a good player. Good teams, consistently good teams, are good teams. Why? Because they got good players. And then, hey, listen, I know you got to have that guy at quarterback that's going to win you games. But even having that guy at quarterback, if you don't have a good team, you're not going to win many games, or you're only going to get so far. So, again, it goes back to this is a good player. We're adding good players to our team.
A good player is what you say. To me, it's about maximizing the value of the first pick.
When I say good player, I'm just saying in general. Like, he may be a great player, but we're adding someone to our roster that is going to bring value. Whether we draft him at 1, 2, or 3, he's still the guy that we're going to draft. No one wants to move up, so hey, we'll take him because that's how we feel it. But we feel whereas he may not be the best player in the draft, but he's high enough on our board that we're going to take him.
This is a question that I would love to know from all of you and from Willie and Derek as we prepare for Jonathan Hutton on the other side at 615-737-1025. I'm curious what the threshold is for a reach. So let's use a big board as an example. I believe Mel Kiper Jr. has Cam Ward at number 6 on his final big board. So if the Titans pick at 1 and they take the 6th best prospect, according to Mel Kiper, it's a difference of 5. Like, what's the threshold for a reach? Is it 5? Is it more than 5? Is anything within 5 safe from being a reach? I'm curious what you guys consider the threshold for a reach.
And let's use Tehran's term, quarterback tax. Is the quarterback tax would indicate that the reach would be bigger for a quarterback. That's what they're doing. I have said from the start, so I'm not going to go off of what I've been saying from the beginning. And look, I think Cam Ward could turn out great. Nobody knows, but I don't think they're maximizing the value of the first overall pick. I don't think they have to take a quarterback this year, even though he's clearly the best quarterback available. So I'm not answering the question, but I'm giving more of the answer to Trey's question. Is I believe that they are compromising a little bit the value of the first overall pick by not taking the best player available or not trading down, even if it were just for an extra 3rd round pick for 1 or 2 notches.
But again, it goes back to, you may think that Cam Ward is the 5th best. You may think, Adam, that he's the 8th best. Somebody else may think that, well, he's the 3rd best.
Jared mentioned on his show yesterday that Pro Football Focus, I don't know who wrote it at Pro Football Focus, had him at number 20, which seems like an outlier to me.
I'm sure that was an outlier. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. All that matters is this. The people in that building think he's worthy of the number 1 pick. And it seems, from all indications, that they do. The problem is y'all don't trust them. That's what it is. I don't know why y'all don't. And people, I understand why. I really do. Again, it's not about the player. It's about who's drafting the player. Because y'all, no matter whether they take Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Genty, anybody. Y'all don't feel this organization has proven that they can draft, develop, and retain. Point blank. It has nothing to do with the quarterback. It has everything to do with the franchise.
615-737-1025. We'll bring Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow into this conversation. Coming up next, we'll also continue to take your thoughts at 615-737-1025. It's time for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor, presented by Gary Force Acura. Cromwell Media, along with partners Fox 17, Outfront Media, and Social Indoor, are proud to announce we will be back at Hermitage Golf Course on Thursday, May 29th, to make a difference while having a great time. You can join us and a few guest media members, athletes, and musicians as we raise money for Folds of Honor. Donations will go to provide life-changing scholarships to families of America's fallen or disabled military and first responders. Sign up to play or sponsor at 615open.com. D. Mace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 30 hours, 57 minutes, and 42 seconds until the start of the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin tomorrow. And by the way, be listening at the end of this segment because I do have some tickets to give away. No, not to the NFL Draft, but I think you'll like it. Joining us now, our friend Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. So Hutton, throughout the week, I've been asking our listeners for their Cam Ward temperature check. Now that the draft is here, we've been talking about it for months. We've heard so many different things about Cam Ward. We've broken down his flaws, his best traits, all of these things, big boards, you name it. And I think a lot of people's feelings on Cam Ward have fluctuated over the past few months. But now that the day is here, I'm going to ask you for your Cam Ward temperature check. How are you feeling about it and him?
Is
and the
this
Titans?
like 1 through 10 or how I like my steak cooked?
You choose. It's up to you.
I'm medium on this, quite frankly. Oh, by the way, you need to add about 25 minutes to that countdown that you have.
Right.
15 minutes until they put the Titans on the clock, and then they will have the entire 10 minutes.
So if your steak was cooked medium now, has it always been cooked medium? Was it medium rare before?
No, it was medium. You know, it's warm, but it's not well done by any means. Well done being like, I mean, I like my steak medium, but I'm saying like if we're going on the grade scale here, like surefire, no chance that you're going to get anything but the real deal. Well done would be it. It's not there. He's very good. I'm not convinced he's the guy, and I won't be convinced of that until he proves it on game day. I mean, he's the best quarterback in this draft, but I don't know what all that means when it doesn't even sound like the Cleveland Browns, or the New York Giants really made a big effort to move up because they put their effort into free agency or another quarterback. I think the Titans would be better served to trade out. But to do that, you have to have a legitimate trade offer. We don't know what that was, but I mean, it's not like I think he's the savior of the franchise. But hey, it's hard to find top tier MVP quarterbacks. But Super Bowl expectations accompany the label of being number one overall. So I take it as one of two things. Number one, they are convinced he's the guy. That he has the exciting playmaking ability, the necessary leadership that they found through his intangibles. They're drafting him through that record-setting arm and football IQ. Even where he needs development, they believe that will happen because of their head coach. That's number one. Or it's number two, they know their owner is not going to have much patience with them to turn things around. Why would they believe that? Given what's happened in recent years, especially the head coach, I'm not sure has much say in the matter. I would be looking for the quarterback in this draft with a chance to turn things around on a 50-50 proposition because not many wide receivers are saving jobs.
So one common refrain we've heard from Titans fans, we had a spicy first hour with a lot of texts from our listeners. And one thing we've heard quite a bit is, I don't trust the Titans. I don't trust the Titans to make this pick. Sure. And I was thinking about this during the break. How much of that do you think is influenced by the presence of Chad Brinker? I'm wondering if it was just Mike Borgonzi. Let's say yesterday the Titans hold that news conference and it's Mike Borgonzi and Brian Callahan. And Chad Brinker, either he's not a part of the organization anymore or he's, receded into the shadows. I'm wondering how much the presence of Brinker is influencing that because he is a link to the past. If Brinker were not around, would Titans fans still feel this exact same way?
Yes, absolutely.
Fair enough.
I mean, what else should they be thinking that Brinker and Borgonzi are going to be the regime that actually finds the right quarterback when they have a high pick? There's no reason for them to have faith in what they're doing. We still point to decades plus to go back and try to find the quarterback that panned out when they actually took time to develop their guy. And they're 0 for 1 putting all their eggs in the Will Levis basket. Now, granted, a second round pick, but they were hoping that they hit on that. They didn't. And now that's why Bergonzi's here. But I mean, yeah, we can point to what guys have done behind the scenes for other decision makers and mentors. That's this trio. So there's nothing to really say that this is a home run draft for them, given the fact that they've got a number 1 pick where I'm lukewarm on the quarterback, even though I think that's ultimately the right call given the circumstances that they're in, where they're not trading out, and the teams around them either bought into the veterans and free agency, or they just quite frankly aren't sold on this quarterback. That's just the hand they were dealt, and now it's time to actually draft, develop, and retain. That's their business approach from the owner. So now we get to see if they can do it or not. And why, again, it's been a while since we've seen a quarterback develop here.
Hud, I mean, we've listened to our callers, we've read text, and even some, within this station or come on this station,
Yep.
just don't believe in the Tennessee Titans, period, that they can develop, that they can draft the right quarterback, then develop the right quarterback and sign them. I mean, history is against them. They haven't been able
Yeah.
to
Even-
develop and retain a
even
quarterback
if-
since Steve McNair.
Even if you think they could, they don't have time. There's no
Exactly. So
patience.
So with that, that is what makes me believe that it's not Cam Ward. Now, listen, if Caleb Williams was coming out or Joe Burrow was coming out, I think they would want the Titans, even though they don't believe the Titans can develop them, they still would want the Titans to draft them because they feel that,
Right.
well, these type of players, they'll overcome whatever, and then they won't be there that long anyway. So they have probably a better coach, the second coach around. But the more and more I think about this, it's not that you don't like Cam or think that he wouldn't be a good quarterback for this team. You don't trust the organization will get him to a point where he can even be, one of the top quarterbacks in the National Football League.
Well, I think the development factor is crucial, but if you're taking number 1 overall, there has to be development in the player. But you're taking a guy that you believe is not just the future, it's the here and now. It's the Titans turnaround starts immediately with this guy, number 1 overall. You're going to take your lumps. It doesn't happen overnight, but it happens a lot faster given the fact that they draft number 1 overall and go quarterback. Trust me when I say Amy Adams-Strunk's going to believe that. A to Z Sports reported that she went down to the workout that they had in Florida, and met with him. I mean, what else needs to be said there? She likes him, and it's the worst kept secret right now across the NFL. Where, I mean, I'm hearing some on social are like, oh, this is just the ultimate long play of trying to trade the pick. If you want to trade the pick, you don't announce that you're closed for business. They've all but made the announcement through Roger Goodell, and they believe they're going to develop him. They also know they don't have 3 or 4 years to do this. They need a quick development to where they can maintain. And then over the plan in place, this 3-year plan that they have, they need to see great strides and momentum around him where he elevates this roster. That's the expectation of a number 1 overall pick, Mace, in my mind. He takes what's average and elevates them to a different tier. And if you're below average, you get up to a different tier. Those guys rise to the occasion.
If that's this, if we're going by that, which you should, if you're the number 1 pick overall, you should elevate the whole team.
Yeah.
I would make the argument that every place he has went, he has elevated that place. What would make it any different him coming here? I know that, listen, he hasn't always worked with the top-notch players at each position. He wasn't at an Alabama or Texas. Yes, he was at the University of Miami, but the Miami that we know is no longer. That Miami that put out 4 or 5, first round of just about every year, that's not the Miami team that he's working with now. It's a good team, don't get me wrong, but that's not the Miami team that he was working with last year. But yet and still, each stop, Incarnate Word, Washington State, and now the University of Miami, he's been able to elevate the offense. He's been able to get these teams to play different than what they were playing the previous year. the Miami Hurricanes was at the top of the college football world. Why? Because of Cam Ward at one point.
All fair.
Because of Cam Ward, not anybody else. This guy. So my thing is, what makes people think that that's why it leans me more to they don't believe in organization. It's not the guy, because the guy has elevated his team. Listen, he didn't win a national championship, but every first round pick or every number one pick didn't win a championship or win a Heisman. But what he has been able to do is elevate each stop that he has been on.
Well, I think what makes the sentiment in that is twofold. Number one, there was no talk of Cam Ward being the unanimous number one pick whenever the Titans obtained it. Number two, the generational talent in this draft is going to go to the Cleveland Browns. Like, I think those play a factor in how you view the number one overall pick right now.
Okay, so when you say when you say generational talent, are you just saying he was a generational talent in college? Generational talent to me now, when he comes to the NFL, if I am drafting him number one, he needs to do the same thing. Because I've always said this, and I'm sticking to it. I would not draft Travis Hunter number one for this reason, because he's only playing one side of the ball. And I don't think he's the best wide receiver. He may be number two. I don't think he's the best wide receiver, and I don't think he's the best defensive back. So I'm not using that pick on Travis Hunter. He may have been, and he was, a unicorn in college with what he was able to do playing both sides of the ball. But he's not. That's not what you're going to get in the NFL.
So what makes you feel you're getting that from Cam Ward?
I'm getting one guy at one position that has elevated himself each and every time. So I know that I'm picking a quarterback based upon what he did in college and what he can do in the NFL. Travis Hunter is not playing both sides of the ball, 80 plays, 40 plays on both sides of the ball. But people, that's what you would incense. That's why you're drafting him number one.
Well, I mean, I think it's where would you put Travis Hunter on your tier of best players in this draft? Just best players.
Just overall players. Best players. Yeah. I would say he would be number one. Genty probably number two.
Saying. That's okay. So,
but I'm not drafting him because
said that
because the only reason I think he's number one.
Draft.
Yeah.
But you asked for why the sentiment is that he's not the guy. He wasn't. Cam Ward wasn't the guy until the combine, and then the sentiment changed whenever the Titans met with him. But also, the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants, the Giants who nearly gave away multiple first-round picks to move up and draft Drake May last year. They tried to. Apparently, they didn't make any type of offer like that. Otherwise, if I'm the Titans, I'm taking that to draft multiple first-round caliber players.
The Giants didn't move up to get Travis Hunter either.
Well, but they may not have to. They may not have to.
But if they liked him that much and felt he was the best player in the draft, wouldn't you want to move up to number one to get him?
I'm saying, the quarterback decision was made whenever they went and decided what they were doing in free agency, not going through the draft. They can take a quarterback if they want to. They can still take Shedeur and surprise all of us now. But the talk was more on Shedeur than it was Cam Ward. And this is also a year where he set the all-time record at Miami for the quarterback record for passing yards, and a wide receiver corner won the Heisman, and a running back was the runner-up. So I'm just what you base it off. They're scouting based on what they did in college, and then you're projecting what they could do. The Titans have to be sold that they're developing him into not just a good quarterback. The number one overall pick at quarterback comes with certain standards that you either high praise and you make a career out of it, or you're crushed for it. I mean,
but every quarterback doesn't reach that standard. They just may reach the standard of, hey, I was a really good quarterback. I led our team to a Super Bowl. We didn't win, or I consistently led our team to a playoff. But because we didn't have more around us or injuries, there are a lot of factors that are part. New coaches. I was never able to reach that point of Super Bowl, like winning a Super Bowl.
Well, all fair. They're all factors. But, I mean, if you're drafting the QB number one, you have the first choice at the quarterbacks. There's a standard there, and jobs are lost over it. I'm not arguing with you on this. I mean, I'm with you. Like, there's a standard that comes with it. There are changes that happen, but there's a talent level that comes with larger expectations for a franchise. And it's why the Cleveland Browns are ridiculed. It's why Trevor Lawrence is looked at as not a good quarterback, because he's supposed to be a player that transcends the position. That's what he did in high school and college. It's not what he's doing in Jacksonville. That's his standard, though. If he was doing that, in Cleveland, they'd be on Monday Night Football every week. You see what I'm saying? Like that. There's more to it than just the Titans are drafting a quarterback. The Titans are saying they're drafting their identity. They're building everything around this guy, and they believe he's worth the selection. He's not just very good. They believe he will become great, and that's the projection. I'm just saying, the guy who's done more to me and has really, he's just different, is Hunter. But I'm with you. I'm not drafting him number one if I need a quarterback, because I'm not going to be around to get him the football. I'm going to be fired. So they have to go quarterback and take the 50-50 coin flip that you get a run with this guy, and you're able to actually build and lay out the plan and actually decide future draft picks based on the quarterback that's helping you do all that.
See, these are things that cloud the judgment, I think, sometimes. The looking out for, hey, I might get fired, or what does the owner think? Those are the things that I think might influence your decision, which probably it's a human thing. It's a natural thing, but it may not be the best way to sift through all of the information and make the best choice. So let's define, because you've laid it out, Hud. When you're the 1-1, there's an expectation level that goes with that. And it's unrealistic, really, historically. Look at all, not just the quarterbacks who have been picked first,
right,
but look at all of the first picks. It will disappoint you, right? But people never will let it go when you're the first pick. So I will ask you, based on the history of the franchise since it's been in Tennessee, where they've drafted Steve McNair, Vince Young, Jake Locker, Marcus Mariota, and I don't know if you want to throw in Will Levis or Malik Willis. They're probably in a different category, but they have not. The only one have they signed to a second contract. So if they sign Ward to a second contract, can they justify him as the 1-1, regardless of anything else? I think we know the answer of everybody's going to say, well, but if he makes it to that level, he will have done quite a bit to earn a second contract.
The second contract could be a lot of different things. I need to see the results on the field and raise. How many other players get a second contract because they're playing with Cam Ward?
Like that's a fair question.
That's the bar. Like that dude to be top tier quarterback in the NFL. If we're just listing guys that developed, Josh Allen comes to mind. We're seeing that. We certainly saw that for Patrick Mahomes. But they had time, they had consistency, they had continuity. I don't see that happening here. There's been no evidence of that. And we know the track record of the head coach who inherits a team. They have the number 1 overall pick, and what happens a year and a half later? The vast majority of the time, that coach doesn't stick around. That's detrimental to that QB. So, I mean, do I think history would say no? And it doesn't matter about regime, which goes back to my answer on Adam's question. The regime, it doesn't matter who the GM would be. The overall morale of the fan base is, well, it'll be a typical Titans pick, not the guy who is very good and becomes great. And the belief is that number 1 overall, you're drafting a great player. And I mean, Cam Ward's a good player. I just haven't heard this sentiment that he's great. That's up to the Titans to develop. We haven't seen development there over the history with any coaching staff.
But I think we know that if we list, we know this, it's a fact. You list all of the first overall picks in a row, year to year, you will find players that were not good players. You will find busts on there.
Yes.
And so that needs to be, people need to remember that. They never will. They will not ever think about that. But it is a fact. It's a historical fact. So let's get to another part of this. That you pointed out, and it's a big one. Amy Adams' perspective. Forget about what the fans think. The fans might have realistic expectations, some may not, but Amy Adams' counts for everything. So she goes, let's just say she goes down to Miami. This may be part of the story. They documented everything, right?
Yes.
Hey, boy, I love Cam Ward.
Man, what a great guy. Met his family. What a fantastic human being. That's our guy. You know, remember the old VY is my guy? That's
VY
what
is my
Bud
guy.
did. I don't know if Floyd Reese and Jeff Fisher. I know Jeff Fisher didn't want to draft Vince Young, but Bud Adams said, VY is my guy.
I'm on board for Cam Ward.
And could you see why
There
that
we
could happen? Vince Young did an that game against USC. It will forever be noted
Great.
as one of the greatest performances of all time in college football history.
Yep.
Fell in love with him. Not who Floyd Reese, not who Jeff Fisher thought was the right guy. So I just wonder if Amy Adams kind of had a similar experience, because Cam Ward, by all accounts, seems to be a very solid human
I
being,
agree.
leader, all of those things will be impressive in every aspect of that. But if he's not living up to the expectations, as you pointed out, there are going to be people who take the fall, and maybe with some impatience involved, knowing her track record.
Well, I mean, what do we think happens if they're a top 3 pick next year?
They need to be a top 3 pick next year. That's what
Well,
they need to be a good franchise. They need to pick high next
but
year.
what
They don't
hap-
need to
but
be
think
picking
about-
12th next year.
Well, that's why I would trade the pick and
Me
inherit
too.
multiple first rounders. But if Ward is the best quarterback in this draft at number 1, if you don't take a quarterback, you trade the pick to a team that will. You receive future first round picks in return. We know all that. But the Titans won't be trading, because I don't think that a part of the trade has to be patience in return for all of this. The long play. We've seen nothing but the quick fix opportunities that they've had. That goes back to John Robinson with wide receivers and other players and pass rushers that they're signing off free agency and trading for. That's because they need to win. Now, I like the mentality, but right now they're in a total rebuild. I mean, they need like 20 picks in this draft. And
Yes.
I mean, they need 20 picks, and they're bringing in a rookie. I don't know who he's throwing the football to. You know, they're overhauling their offensive line again. Good. They needed to do that. But I mean, again, the rookie quarterback takes his lumps, and the Titans can't go through another 3-win season and think that they'll be able to run it back and improve in year 2 of the Cam Ward era. He's probably learning a new offense. And that, again, that they have to take the long play here. I just when it comes to draft, develop, retain, which every team is trying to do, the develop aspect of that starts now, immediately. It's not 3 years from now or when they open the stadium in 2027. They have to show that they're showing development with this coaching staff now. That was pointed out yesterday by Borgonzi with a head coach sitting there that looked kind of bored to me with all the talk. I mean, he's tasked with developing the quarterback because of his history with all the quarterbacks that have been linked to him and that they boasted about when they hired him. Now it's time to prove it, but he doesn't get to prove it over 3 years. Not after inheriting the number 1 overall pick because of what happened in year 1 for him. It's not year 1 for him now.
Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow joining us on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. Hutton, we are 30 hours, 34 minutes, and 44 seconds away, give or take 15, 20 minutes. So enjoy the draft, my friend. We'll talk next week.
If it's 15 or 20, they will choose 20. Don't worry about it.
Thanks, Hutton.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good chat.
615-737-1025. Coming up next, we will react to what Hutton had to say. A lot of good stuff there. But also, I heard something yesterday. Perhaps I took it too literally. But being the reporter and the researcher that I am, I went down the rabbit hole. We will play for that. We'll play that for you coming up next at 615-737-1025. Speaking of that phone number, be caller number 4 at that phone number, 615-737-1025. And you will win a family 4-pack of tickets to see the Sounds take on the Durham Bulls at First Horizon Park tomorrow. First pitch is at 6:35. So caller number 4, you will win a family 4-pack of tickets to see the Sounds take on the Bulls at First Horizon Park tomorrow. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Let's talk Lead Company, 615-567-1000 or leadcompany.com. Lee Company has been in business since 1944, and they've been helping people in our listening area for all of those years when it comes to helping the things that make your household run, the things that you don't want to deal with. Air conditioner on the fritz, heater not heating properly, a plumbing problem, a maintenance problem, something with your electrical system. They've got solutions for you in all of those areas. And they've got the year-round program that will solve a lot of it. And that's the home maintenance plan, where you get annual checkups on heating, cooling, plumbing, and electric systems. It's a great way to stay ahead of the game, to where you will find the small problems before they really bite you at the worst possible time. You pay a small monthly fee, and in exchange for that, you get discounts when repairs are needed. And if you stay in your house long enough, repairs are going to be needed. So call 615-567-1000 and ask about the home maintenance plan, or go to leadcompany.com. Lead Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators.
D. Mace, Finken, and Donick, 1025, 1063 the game. We are proudly presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Also, a reminder that you should not miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on the Game Nashville Sports Network tomorrow. We will be broadcasting live from Twin Peaks in Madison. Friday from Boombah's Pizza and Watch Bar in East Nashville. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock each day. Presented by Hardee's, Parman Tractor and Equipment, Twin Peaks, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Shane Co., and Professional Home Improvements. Now, tomorrow, it'll be Jared Stillman, Derek Mason,
Boom.
Chris Sanders, and Trevor Maddich. And I was listening to Stillman and Company yesterday. And we know one thing about Jared. Well, we know a lot of things about Jared. But there's one thing we know about Jared. He loves his former NFL executives. He worked with one for a very long time, near and dear to his heart. But he loves referencing Bill Polian. He loves referencing Rick Spielman. He loves referencing Thomas Dimitrov. Robbie and Rexroad have been giving him a lot of flack for all of the Bill Polian clips that Jared has been playing. And yesterday, Jared played a clip from Pat Kerwin, who also worked in the NFL and is now a host on, I want to say, Sirius XM NFL radio. And he played a clip about Cam Ward. And perhaps I took this too literally, but when I heard this clip, I ended up doing some research. So let's first play the clip from Pat Kerwin that Jared played yesterday.
Let's talk about Cam Ward. Is he a gold jacket guy?
I don't think so. No.
Right. So now when you take him, and let's say they admit that to themselves, was he a Pro Bowl quarterback? Let's say they think no. Now, if you're just going pure need and you don't think he's a gold jacket, that'd be really, I'm stealing the words of our old friend Dave Gettleman, which was his rationale for a top 4 or 5 pick. If you don't think he's that, and you don't even know if he's a Pro Bowler, which is the point a lot of these guys will be making in the room, then why take him? Because you need him. Well, is that a good enough reason? Because I can tell you, you take a quarterback at 1 and he's not a great player, you're going to get haunted down the road. You might have satisfied your fan base and your media for now, but if you don't really believe in your heart of hearts that that guy is going to be a great player, you could be in for some professional trouble, if I will.
So that was Pat Kerwin. And I was stuck on the phrase gold jacket guy. Is Cam Ward a gold jacket guy? Meaning, is Cam Ward capable of being a Hall of Fame quarterback? Because you get a gold jacket when you enter the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I decided to look this up because I was just curious. And again, I might have taken Pat Kerwin too literally, but I was still curious. So I did my research. There have been 28 quarterbacks taken number 1 overall in the common draft era, which is since 1967, when the NFL and AFL agreed to a merger. Cam Ward, presumably, will be number 29. So 28 quarterbacks taken number 1 overall in the common draft era. Now, I understand that some of these quarterbacks are still playing, so they're not Hall of Fame eligible. Of those 28 quarterbacks taken number 1 overall in the common draft era, how many are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Let people think for a moment.
Yeah.
Because D-Mace and I answered this question a little bit earlier. We named them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty short list.
Very short list.
The answer is 4. There are 4 number 1 pick quarterbacks taken in the common draft era who are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Terry Bradshaw, who was number 1 overall in 1970. John Elway, number 1 overall in 1983. Troy Aikman, first overall in 1989. And of course, Peyton Manning, number 1 overall in 1998. Now, there have been very good quarterbacks taken number 1 overall who are not Hall of Famers. Jim Plunkett was taken number 1 overall in 1971. He's a 2-time Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl MVP. He is not in the Hall of Fame. Who knows what Andrew Luck could have been had his career not been derailed by injuries. I would venture to say that Andrew Luck appeared to be on a Hall of Fame trajectory early in his career. So there are examples, of course, of very good quarterbacks who were taken number 1 overall who were not Hall of Famers.
Again.
But 4 of 28.
But I think it's also important to point out
1 out of every 7.
1 of 7. But what about the overall number of Hall of Famers drafted first at any position?
That's a good question. So if my research is correct, this is the 90th NFL draft. Do you guys venture? Well, I was about to say, do you guys guess? You already guessed.
We've already guessed.
All right, I'll give the pause for a second. This is the 90th NFL draft. Regardless of position, how many Hall of Famers were taken number 1 overall? 15.
15 of 90.
Well, it would be 15 of 89.
15 for 89. So roughly the same percentage, right?
10 in the common draft era. So since 15 overall, 10 since 1967.
There's no, again, it goes back to there's no like direct and, you know, fail safe science to drafting, you know, a first round, a gold jacket guy first overall, let alone a quarterback.
So if your expectation is gold jacket guy,
Mhm.
you're going to be wrong.
Yeah.
You're going to be wrong 80% of the time.
Exactly.
At least.
So again, I
Right?
think people like saying that because now when you say gold jacket, it's like, oh, okay, we and then you think all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes. We got to have that gold jacket Patrick Mahomes. Where the numbers tell you that's not what you're going to get. More times than not, you're going to get a good quarterback, and some of them do flame out very quickly. But you're going to get a good quarterback, a quarterback that can possibly win you a Super Bowl, if not win you one. The draft for at least the last 30 years, because those guys come in the first round with the first overall pick. Those guys come later in the draft. You know, you can't say, well, he needs to be that guy, because more times than not, even a really good quarterbacks, great quarterback. Some of these quarterbacks they hadn't won Super Bowls. Some of these quarterbacks have won Super Bowls that may not get into the Hall of Fame. So when you say gold jacket guy, to me, that's one of those words you say just to sort of, you know, it's give a
unrealistic
exactly
of
an individual pick. And everybody hangs on to that. Oh, he said he had to be a gold jacket guy.
Again, this is the 90th NFL draft. In history, 15 number 1 overall picks are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'll quickly.
We haven't done this.
Okay.
But I would love to let's list the 89. I will bet you, because I don't know the answer, I'll bet you we can make an argument that the number of busts is pretty close to the number of Hall of Famers.
That might be a project for later. But here are the 15 number 1 picks who have been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Halfback, Bill Dudley in 1942. Halfback, Charlie Trippi in 1945. Center/linebacker, Chuck Bednarik.
Chuck Bednarik.
In 1949. Halfback/quarterback, Paul Hornig in 1957. Defensive lineman, Buck Buchanan in 1963. Tackle, Ron Yary in 1968.
That was Fran Tarkinson's guy.
Running back, O.J. Simpson in 1969. Terry Bradshaw in 1970. Defensive tackle, Leroy Selman in 1976. Running back, Earl Campbell in 1978. Quarterback, John Elway in 1983. Defensive end, Bruce Smith in 1985. Quarterback, Troy Aikman in 1989. Left tackle, Orlando Pace in 1997. And quarterback, Peyton Manning in 1998.
So none since 2000.
Correct.
0.
Correct.
0 for 20. Some are still playing, obviously, but the batting average isn't good since 2000.
Again, I acknowledge that perhaps I took Pat Kerwin's comment too literally, but when I heard that, I was curious.
But I think that's a common misconception of what the first overall pick turns out to be. I don't think it's unique to football either. Look at the Major League Baseball draft.
I get it. It's when you're drafted number 1 overall, there is a expectation for you to succeed over everybody else.
Yeah.
And
it's
realistically, that's not the case across the board. I think in just about all sports. Now, some sports may have a higher number of their first round overalls having, you know, Hall of Fame type careers, but I think across the board, that's what you're hoping for. But what I'm hearing from the Titans fans and, you know, some of these people saying don't draft Cam Ward, that if he doesn't become that, then you shouldn't draft him. Well, what if he becomes a Super Bowl winning quarterback? What if he becomes a multiple time All Pro or Pro Bowler? Like, let's just say Pro Bowler. What if he becomes a multiple time Pro Bowler? He wins a Super Bowl. Isn't that what you're looking for? And your team is always
Yeah.
in a position to make the playoffs.
That's why I use the benchmark of, do they sign him to a second contract?
Mhm.
To me, there is a certain victory in that. That's a victory if that happens. That should be the floor.
615-737-1025. Again, just some quick research I did last night. I found that to be interesting. 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the NFL draft. 30 hours, 17 minutes, and 39 seconds away, according to ESPN, on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Happy hump day out around there. Do people still say hump day? I don't know.
Hump
I
day?
mean-
On this show, we do.
Oh, yeah,
Hump
absolutely. That's what we're called, DVD. All right. So happy hump day, everyone. This is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and this
We're a
staff over at
trend-setting
Q.
show, D-Days. We set the
Absolutely.
trends. If we say it, it's cool.
So hump
Let's
day
not say
is
that.
back. Oh, man. So check
That
out
commercial came out 11 years ago, by the way.
But I still love it. Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time now. If you set out to lose some weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to face disappointment. But I got some solutions here. So check this out. Listen closely, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, which I just went in and got my blood tested and everything else. So I'm waiting for the results, which I know they will be great. Why? Because of the good folks at Cool Springs MD and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. So continuing our conversation, Jared played a clip yesterday from Pat Kerwin on his program talking about Cam Ward not being a quote-unquote gold jacket guy. So, as I said in the previous segment, in the common draft era since 1967, excluding Cam Ward, there have been 28 quarterbacks taken with the number 1 overall pick. 4 of them have become Hall of Famers. Terry Bradshaw, John Elway, Troy Aikman, and Peyton Manning. Yes, I know that maybe one day Joe Burrow will be a Hall of Famer, but we're going by what we have in front of us. So just for kicks and giggles, let's just run through quickly the 28 quarterbacks who have been taken number 1 overall in the common draft era, starting with Terry Bradshaw in 1970. As I said, Hall of Famer. Jim Plunkett in 1971. Great quarterback. Not a Hall of Famer, but a great quarterback, right? It was before my time, but as I understand it.
Who's that?
Jim Plunkett.
Yeah.
Jim Plunkett was a bust for the early 5, 6, 7 years of his career. He never did anything. He was on the bench and only really got a chance when Dan Pastorini broke his leg. Remember the Oilers and Raiders, if you're as old as I am, I can remember. Kenny Stabler, the Snake, was a great quarterback for the Raiders, won a Super Bowl. Dan Pastorini was the Love You Blue quarterback for the Oilers, and Earl Campbell. They swapped quarterbacks, a really big trade back then. You didn't see trades like that very often. Pastorini got to the Raiders and broke his leg. That opened the door for Plunkett, who just happened to be on the roster. Nobody had heard of him, in years. And then he quarterbacked some really good Raiders teams to the title. So that's a unique case. Certainly not a bust.
All right. So Bradshaw and Plunkett, Steve Bartkowski in 1975.
Bartkowski was good at his best. I don't know if they ever won a playoff game. He had some good years for some Falcons teams that were pretty
He's a
decent.
two-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. So those are your first 3 as I just lost the list. All right, here it is. Do I have it? Yes, I have it. John Elway, Hall of Famer, 1983. Vinny Testaverde, 1987. Aikman, 89. Jeff George, 1990.
These are really interesting. Vinny Testaverde had the highest expectations coming out of college, right? The Heisman Trophy, national title kind of stuff, even though they lost the national title game, I think, but the powerful Miami teams, right? And he ended up playing in the NFL forever.
Yeah, he played for a long
but
time.
he was never a great quarterback, right?
So Jeff George in 90, Bledsoe in 93, Manning in 98, of course, a Hall of Famer. Tim Couch in 1999, bust. Michael Vick in 2001, David Carr in 2002, Carson Palmer in 2003.
David Carr?
Bust. David Carr in 2002, Carson Palmer in 2003, Eli Manning in 2004, Alex Smith in 2005, Jamarcus Russell, bust in 2007, Matthew Stafford in 2009, Sam Bradford in 2010.
Would we say bust?
Yeah, probably. Cam Newton in 2011, Andrew Luck in 2012, and then Winston in 2015, Goff in 2016, Mayfield in 2018, Kyler Murray in 2019, Joe Burrow in 2020, Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, and then soon to be Cam Ward.
So let's take everybody from Goff on and say that the jury's still out there, but none of those guys.
So you want to stop at Winston being the end of the line. Because you have 10
we
years.
don't know if Bryce Young is a bust at this point.
Way too soon.
He's not off to a great start. The other guys, Caleb Williams is just starting the journey.
We're not counting
Kyler Murray, we know Joe Burrow's not a bust. Trevor Lawrence, below expectation, but he's not awful, right? But conservatively, there are more busts than Hall of Famers among quarterbacks picked with the first overall pick. Is that a fact?
There are 3 names on this list.
Can we say that for a fact? I think so, right?
There are 3 names on this list that come to mind to me that I think are interesting cases. Alex Smith, Carson Palmer, and Eli Manning. We had debates before the Pro Football Hall of Fame induction about whether Eli Manning was worthy of being a Hall of Famer. Won multiple championships, but was never a player who put up gaudy numbers.
And his record as a starter is not nearly as good as you think it is.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Carson Palmer, I want to say, started 14, 15 years in the NFL. He was
on some bad teams.
Right. But
in the 1 year they had a legitimate opportunity. What happens to him?
By the way,
he gets hurt in the Pittsburgh game. He blows out his knee.
But I feel
Eli
like
Manning's record as a starter. Do you know what it is?
No.
50. It's like
Exactly.
50%.
117 and 117. That's his record as a starter.
So I just
Two Super Bowls though.
right, but like a player like Alex Smith, a player like not Peyton Manning. You would hope it would be Peyton Manning. A player like Eli Manning, like good, solid.
I'd take it. I'd sign up
good,
right now.
Solid.
Give me 2 Super Bowls. That's
Right.
I'm there.
Right. So it just goes to show that when you have the number 1 overall pick in the draft, the expectations are so unrealistic. Quickly, let's go to Chad in Hendersonville on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Chad, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey guys, couple quick thoughts here. Hearing a lot of stuff about the 4th pick and the Boise State running back Jonte to be selected there. Could be a trade up. It seems like his stock is really going up. And also, I wanted to ask you about, this Cam Ward thing kind of reminds me a little bit of back when Bud Adams told the Titans that they needed to draft Vince Young and kind of blew off the process. This seems to be very similar, and it makes me kind of wonder if Amy's involved in this, because there seems to be no process. It's eerily similar, and I'm wondering if you talked about that in your thoughts. And finally, have you guys seen this latest craze about football cards and the way that how that is, as some said, the top commodity in the world? Your thoughts?
Thanks for the call, Chad. Let's touch on
This
that
last
second
part.
point.
I
Yeah, I
love
haven't
collecting
heard it. Yeah,
football
but I
cards and
haven't heard
baseball
it.
cards when I was a
Thank
kid.
you
I
for
had no idea
calling.
this
I have
was.
absolutely
I
no
need to
idea
go
what
into
you're
my
talking about.
basement right now and pull out all my football cards.
But we
If
brought
they're
up
the most valuable commodity in the world. I got some bills to pay, man. I got putting kids through college.
we brought up the Bud Adams thing
I
not
got a
too
bunch.
long
I
ago.
got some Jim Plunkets in my basement somewhere.
We brought up the Bud Adams Vince Young thing earlier this hour. So let's unwrap that coming up next.
Yeah.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D. Mace Finnegan and Donick 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. And we are proudly presented by Bet365. Whatever the moments, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Okay, so Chad called. He had multiple points to make, but we'll focus on one of the points about the ownership-driven pick, right? I heard Jared talking about this yesterday as well, and of course, Jared will join us at the end of the program as we transition from ours to his. But here's a text from Randy from earlier today on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. It has to be Amy's pick. That's based on the Titans statement yesterday. They said their philosophy is to take the best available. One of them said if you pick based on position, you won't be a GM very long. They're going against their own philosophy if picking based. This is Amy's pick. It's her version of her dad's VY pick. She has PSLs to sell.
I mean, listen, yes, this is our team. And, considering, the information that is leaked out of these buildings, I don't think in today's football, you want to be that type of owner, especially if your team has been not good the previous years, especially if you've made decisions that people believe were like off the cuff decisions or, bad decisions when it comes to the franchise. You can't then make it seem like or give the indication that this is your pick, that no matter what, I want that guy. Like my dad said, VY is my guy. You don't want that to be the case in this one. You want to give the illusion, whether it's true or not. I think it's true, but whether it's true or not, you want to give the illusion that you've hired some good people that are doing a damn good job, and they are the ones that are drafting. Yeah, you may give your input, after you've watched what they've watched and listened to what they've listened, listen to them as they talk, in regards to, evaluating these players, in particular the quarterback. But you don't want it to be perceived as it was your pick, even though this is your team. You do what you want to, but I think because of the past decisions and how people are holding that against her, you don't want that to be the perception that it was your pick and you sort of, you sort of went over Brinkert and Borgonzi, and this was your guy and not truly their guy.
So let's go back to 2006. I wasn't living here. A lot of our listeners may not have been living here because we know Nashville, a transient town. So Willie, let's go back to the Vince Young draft and let's talk about Bud Adams and Vince Young and give our listeners a history lesson for those of us who weren't here for that.
Well, first of all, the Titans, it was clear that they were going to pick high early on in that season. It was a total rebuild. Derek Mason was gone. Steve McNair was gone. All of the guys, basically, that made up the great teams of the first 5 years of the Titans were gone. It was a new era. It was the first year that we really had a ton of, because they knew a quarterback was needed, and you knew at the top of the draft, you had Vince Young, Matt Leinart, and Jay Cutler, who had been playing for Vanderbilt right in our backyard for 4 years. So it was very unique. So the debate among those three guys, not to mention Reggie Bush, and then there was the other guy, and I'm trying to remember his name, the defensive lineman who ended up going very high. He was also mixed in. I think he was the second overall pick.
Not
what was his name?
Not Darren Wilkerson.
He went over
USC.
No, the Texans took him first overall.
Mario Williams.
Mario
was the
Williams.
#1
Speaking
overall
of
pick.
Bus, as the #1 overall pick.
The top five picks in the 2006 NFL draft for kicks and giggles. Mario Williams to the Texans, Reggie Bush to the Saints, Vince Young to the Titans, DeBrickashaw Ferguson.
DeBrickashaw. We had a lot of talk about DeBrickashaw.
And to the New York Jets, and current non-playable character on the Pat McAfee show, A.J. Hawk, 5th overall to the Green Bay Packers.
So there was a ton of talk about who to pick. I think the Titans knew that you had a quarterback at need, and you had that amazing championship game between USC and Texas one of the greatest college football games ever. You had Jeff Fisher, who played at USC, and you had Matt Leinart, quarterback USC, and you had Vince Young, unbelievable performance for Texas. You had Bud Adams down there in the state of Texas. So there was, and you had, again, Jay Cutler, who turned out to be the best of the three guys. None of them are in the Hall of Fame, but Jay Cutler played for way longer than both of those guys and way better, arguably. But it was very interesting how, and John McClain, who still comes on our station a lot, was a big, big part of our show back then. So he was following the pulse of Bud Adams. He was following Vince Young. And all of a sudden, what was a debate of what to do, it turned into a Vince Young. And then Floyd Reese, who was coming on our show weekly at the time as the GM, basically started giving the signals. And then when it was all over, obviously they took Vince Young, and it was revealed basically that Bud Adams had said, VY is my guy. That's who he wanted to pick. Jeff Fisher, there were a lot of reports that he went down. He went down to Houston. He did all kinds of things, even the night before the draft, supposedly, to try to convince Bud Adams this is not the guy we should pick at number 3. Now, ironically, it might have been Matt Leinart that he wanted.
Oh,
Matt Leinart,
it was even worse.
he wasn't even as good as Vince Young.
No, he wasn't.
At least Vince had his moments, right? But there was a lot of internal debate. It was clear that they were not really wanting to pick Vince Young, but they were told, this is who we're picking. Make it work.
And that's why I said the perception or the thought can't be, well,
that shouldn't be part of your process, right? The owner's person, even though they have the right to do that,
they
that
have the
shouldn't
right,
be what they do.
Exactly. And that's what I keep going back, going to. It's like, even though you have every right and, to say this is the guy, it's your team. But I want to believe, because listen, again, she's made some moves that people have questioned. Again, it's her team. She makes whatever moves she wants to. But these were moves that were questioned across the league. And they're still looked upon as bad moves in a sense. But you can't let that, again, be sort of the story that you, over Borgonzi, over Brinker, over Brian Callahan, you decided on who the quarterback was going to be. It wasn't even truly a consensus amongst all of y'all. It was you decided and everybody else fell in line. I don't think that's what happened. I think that they convinced her that he's the guy, and she believes in what they're doing. So, all right, let's draft him.
Wouldn't you guys think if it was a Amy Adams type of pick, it would be Shedeur Sanders, because he is the hot name outside of, like, obviously Cam Ward is the hot name, but like Shedeur Sanders brings a lot of attention media wise. Wouldn't that be considered more of a owner coming in for the pick?
It's a good question. I don't think I don't think that's what she did, right? I don't think she's as extreme as Bud, who I think thought himself knew enough football. Hey, this is who I like. What I think happens with Amy, I don't know. This would be my theory. Is Amy is saying exactly what you're saying. Hey, tell me who you think is the best. But I think when they all went down there to the pro day and had this big celebration of everybody's down. Remember that story? That Jimmy Wyatt's down there and all the social media teams down there. They're documenting all this. And Amy Adams is down there. Everybody's down there. That was the moment where I think Amy Adams probably had the buy-in. And from there, I think, hey, the boss really likes this. They like what we're doing. I think you start convincing yourself that this is the move, and the word consensus. Hey, everybody agree? Hey, the owner likes this. You agree? You good? Everybody, we good? This is our guy? I think that's part of it. And I don't think that element should be in there. And this is the other part that goes back to tie into the caller that ended the last hour, or the texter, Adam. When you say, hey, they've basically shown their hand here, right? They showed their cards. There's no process. Remember, that was the word that the caller used. There's no process here. to me, the process should be you keep your hand close to the chest. You don't reveal your hand until the last minute. That the process should be you wait and see if you can maximize the value of that pick. And part of that would be the mystery of not telegraphing who you're going to pick.
But don't you think?
I don't like that.
Don't you think? Listen, if you had the third pick, the fourth pick, then yes, I would tend to believe that you keep it close to the vest because somebody.
But doesn't it have you thinking then that Amy Adams might have said, "This is the guy we're going to pick"?
And no, no. But there's a but to it. If I'm drafting 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm keeping my cards close to my chest because anybody can move up past me to get the guy I want. Let's just say 3. If we start from 3 to 7, or even 3 to 10, I'm holding everything close. Why? Because teams still have the ability to maneuver and move over me. So I can see you holding your cards based upon that. You got the number 1 pick. Either somebody's going to make a deal or somebody's not. It's not just because I'm saying that he's our guy. Essentially, he's our guy. We're sticking with our pick. If somebody comes out of left field and said, we offer you 3 first-round picks, I'm going to say, whoa, what? What did you just say? I was getting ready to turn my car. Whoa. Stop. Hey, Commissioner, hold on. Good day. Hold on for a second. Give me a couple more seconds here. What you say? Okay, no, you serious about this? All right, now we can possibly make a deal, but no one's going to come to that sort of consensus on somebody else's team to give up that many picks for the first overall pick. So I can show you, I could tell you that I'm going to draft Cam Ward. It makes no difference. So again, if I'm 3 to 10, I'm holding them close in. If I'm number 1, hey, I'm telling you, if you want them or want somebody close to it, then make an offer. But until then, this is who I am going to draft. Now, when it comes to Amy, I do believe this. I'm not going to sit here and say that she knows no football. I'm not going to be that guy that says that. Yeah, I've heard people say that. She owns a team. I figure if you own a business, you're going to want to know something about that business. Either you're going to know a whole bunch, or if you're just coming in and you're buying it, and you may know a little, but you're going to know more as you keep going. But you know that it's a good investment. So I'm going to invest. A football team is a great investment. I'm going to invest it. I'm not going to sit here and think that she doesn't know football. I'm sure she knows football, not to the level of Brinkert, Borgonzi, Callahan, but she knows football. So if I know football, you tell me, okay, Willie, Adam, what are we looking for? Y'all the GMs and the president or supreme ruler, whichever one y'all pick who y'all going to be, supreme ruler of football. If I come to y'all and say, I'm the owner, okay, what are we looking for in a quarterback? List to me, what are we looking for in a quarterback? And y'all give me this list. I'm like, okay. And so I know what I'm looking for. I'm watching film with y'all. I see this. So now we're going to the University of Miami. Now I fly in with y'all because this is the first pick in the draft. I'm flying in with y'all. I see some of those things that y'all explained to me that y'all were looking for in a quarterback. Number 1, I see these things now, and I seen them on film, but now I see it in person. So now I'm convinced. Okay, y'all told me what y'all are looking for. I'm convinced he's the number 1 guy. Almost. Let me go talk to him now. Let me go talk to him. Let me sit down with him. She wants to get to know him as a person now because everything that y'all have told me, and I can't say that, the C word, the CB word, I can't say that. But everything that y'all told me, y'all were looking for in a franchise quarterback. He fits the bill. I've seen it all. Let me go talk to him now. Now it's like, okay, this is the guy we're taking. And I'm only saying that based upon what y'all told me, and then me getting an opportunity to seal a deal, meaning having an interview, sitting down with him for an hour, 2 hours, getting to know him and his family, because he's already did the things that y'all say y'all looking for. I seen that. Now I want to see the other side of it. And she said, okay, he's the guy. Pick him. Can you see that happening?
Yeah, I can see that happening, but I still would keep it a secret. I would try to trade down and still get him. Like, aren't they? They're giving away any opportunity they had to try to manipulate it.
If you have
move down and still get him.
If we have no dancing partner, then
that's the only thing I can conclude. I hope for their sake that they had no dance partner because they need extra picks.
It's either Maybe they want. Nah, I'm not gonna go there. Maybe they wanted to give you a 5 or 4 to dance with. You were like, I ain't dance. They can't dance. Yeah, you offering me somebody to dance, but you better give me a 10, somebody that can really dance. If you're not offering to give me a 10, then I don't want to I don't want to dance. Yeah, they are a good dancer. I get it, but it's not. We're on a big stage now. I need somebody when the lights go bright. I need a good dancer. Don't give me a dancer that's a 5 or a 6. Don't try to give me a dancer to move up to that spot. Don't give me a 5 or a 6. Give me a 10. If you give me a 10, I'll let you dance first.
I just know I would have played every angle I could have played to trade down and still get the guy I wanted. Even if the guy I wanted was Ward, I would still try to get it. I'd work every angle.
But
and when they say don't call, don't come to our door.
I don't think they're working partners.
You're definitely not going to do it if you're telling people not to call.
I can tell. Okay. Do you think just because they said don't call? What were we talking about the other day? People coming to your house. It's like, don't come to my house. They're still gonna come. They're still gonna come. They still gonna come. Yes, people still gonna come.
They're very determined.
And then you start hiding. Yeah. Who was that out the window? You start doing those things. Okay.
But those are the people you don't want coming to your door.
But you gotta have somebody to come. You see what I'm saying? There has to be. I can't make a move if there's nobody willing to do what's necessary to make that move.
615-737-1025.
I explained a bunch of nothing.
No, you did a good job. I was highly entertained. Quickly, Skylar on our text line says, ownership has run and will continue to run this franchise into the ground. The Titans have been drafting for need in the first round for the past 3 years with Burks, Skoronski, and Latham. Cam Ward is putting the cherry on top of this incompetent organization. And the sad thing is, I don't think Borgonzi is that stupid. Ownership interference will never stop with the Titans.
See, there we go. That's one of probably many more we've gotten either via phone call or via text about them not trusting the organization.
And we're going to get more of that up until the NFL draft. Unfortunately, ESPN has taken the ticker off, so I can't give you it up to the second time of how long until the NFL
it's
draft.
About 28 hours, right? You think?
Yeah, 7:00 tomorrow.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
615-737-1025. I want to take a quick Titans breather and focus on an Iamaliava adjacent story. Not about Nico, but something that I find to be interesting about the state of college football, what one university is trying to do. We'll get to that next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game.
All right, let's talk F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. You know the story if you're listening to our show. 20 locations across our listening area, and their motto is banking made easy on purpose. They want to make your financial plans a lot easier, less stressful. They want you to enjoy the process. Their business is to make your business mean more to them. They've got 20 locations. They want your business. They're right in the middle of your community. They're not as big as some of the other places, but man, your business means so much to them. They've got all of the tools. You've heard me talk about the Smart Swipe feature. Every time you use the Smart Swipe debit card, it rounds up to the nearest dollar, so you'll be saving every time you use it. Very simple, but that's the motto. Banking made easy on purpose. Check out and find the nearest location to you. myfmbank.com. They've got locations all over it. Clarksville, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and of course, right in the center of Nashville on West End Avenue, over in Murfreesboro, Mount Juliet, Springfield, just to name a few. myfmbank.com. It's MyFM Bank. It's F&M Bank, banking made easy on purpose. Member FDIC.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063 the game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. An Iamaliava story for you that has nothing to do with Nico Iamaliava. It's all about his younger brother, Madden Iamaliava, who is expected to join his older brother at UCLA. Madden Iamaliava is also a quarterback. He was at Arkansas. He was actually at UCLA first, then decommitted, went to UCLA. I mean, he was at UCLA, decommitted, went to Arkansas, and now he's going back to UCLA. Just the nature of the beast now in college sports. But I saw this yesterday during our show. We didn't have a chance to discuss it. But Arkansas Athletic Director Hunter Yurachek, according to On3, sent a clear message on how the Razorbacks will handle NIL buyouts. He put out a statement, if I can find it, that said, quote, "I have spoken with the leadership team at Arkansas Edge and expressed my support in their pursuit to enforce their rights under any agreement violated by our student athletes moving forward. We appreciate Edge's investment in our student athletes and acknowledge the enforcement of these agreements is vital in our new world of college athletics. We look forward to continued dialogue with all parties in resolving these." Pete Nakos at On3 wrote, while Yurachek chose not to single out one athlete, his decision to comment on NIL buyouts the day after Iamaliava's departure is not a coincidence. A similar situation is playing out at Tennessee, where his brother Nico and the Volunteers have had a public divorce. So I think this is an interesting tact, if this is indeed one way for schools to combat this moving forward.
So UCLA not really popular in the SEC right now.
No,
but
not at all.
I do wonder the backstory of the younger brother, Madden, leaving UCLA originally to go to Arkansas. Now, remember, this kid's not even a college student yet. He was committed.
He's an
in
incoming
high school,
freshman.
and then he was an early enrollee, another rule that I've never liked. I don't think it should be allowed. I think you should graduate with your senior class. You should go to your prom. You should graduate with your buddies. That is a lifelong, never forget experience.
We talked about this, though, Willie.
That those kids give up, and they have been for decades, right?
Right.
This isn't new.
They're not here to make friends. They're here to make money. It's a different time.
So he flipped originally, so there was some drama there. So Arkansas had to do something to get him to flip. And then he goes there, it doesn't like how it's going in the spring, and then leaves after the spring. So that in and of itself is a big drama. And now you have this wrinkle.
It maybe it's not because he didn't like, what was going on in Arkansas. It was because he liked the idea of playing behind his brother and then ultimately taking over the job when his brother leave. Because I think Nico, I think he's going to spend 1 year at UCLA and then leave. Well, his brother will be there as a true freshman. They'll redshirt him, so he'll still have essentially 4 years left, and he could take over the reins. So I don't think it's so much about Arkansas. I just think it's about an opportunity that he sees he can play with his brother, behind his brother, and then take over a job in a major conference.
Pete Nakos writes, quote, "NIL contracts in the last 2 years have started to include a myriad of buyouts, ranging from clawbacks where athletes owe institutions dollars to schools owning athletes' NIL rights. It remains to be seen if Iamaliava will owe Arkansas liquidated damages for leaving Fayetteville." He also writes, "Most schools now include buyouts in revenue-sharing contracts or in NIL collective deals that are being transitioned to rev share contracts this summer. Wisconsin defensive back Xavier Lucas transferred to Miami over the winter without entering the portal because the Badgers argued a revenue-sharing deal he signed included a buyout clause. Wisconsin has since indicated it might pursue legal action."
They need to seriously, and because now it's starting to grow tentacles, and other things are starting to happen. They need to decide very quickly: is this going to be minor league, professional minor league, or is this going to be college athletics? Because
how do we define
exactly
both, right?
It's because you're treading now into the waters of professional football, being tied to contracts and all this other stuff. And if you leave and go somewhere else where you got to pay some money back, that's college. That's pro. That is,
and
pro,
you're getting paid like it.
Exactly. You're getting paid like it, but that is pro sports.
You're not getting paid like minor league sports. You're getting paid like major league sports.
So this is pro sports. the party's not even the NCAA. Because, man, listen, the NCAA is so far away from this. It's not even crazy. Ain't nobody even answering the phones anymore. We talked about Tommy. Tommy ain't even there no more. He quit because he knows nothing going on. The Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, and still the ACC. They need to get together, and they need to get with these players on both like men's and women's sports. There's going to have to be some type of agreement, some type of collective bargaining, amongst this group. And maybe they can't do it because they're not separate from the NCAA right now, but there's going to have to be something done because now this thing is starting to grow tentacles outside of NIL.
Everything keeps evolving.
Something
and
new
it gets
happens
crazier
every other
and
month.
crazier, yes. But I don't think we're going to have a system anytime soon. I will, like, there was a great article written the other day in USA Today, and who was it? Matt Hayes. Am I getting that right? I sent it to you guys, but he talked about the Middle Tennessees of the world, who every year lose guys in the portal that they have recruited, they recognized, got them, developed them, and then they know they're going to lose them. I look at Belmont with Casey Alexander. He's developed a lot of really good players, and he's lost a lot of them to the portal because they just can't compete. So shouldn't there be a system that compensates those teams? If you're really being fair and you really want to have everybody under an umbrella that has a chance to succeed on some level, there should be maybe a talent fee or some sort of compensation for that. I'll tell you what you have in the absence of a system, because I think D-Mace, unfortunately, we're years away from having a real system. I'll tell you what used to happen, because some people are like, hey, they've been paying the players for decades, as long as you can remember, like going back to John Wooden. But you know what you had? You did have a code, right? I remember a college basketball coach telling me back in the day that there was, for basketball, if you want to cheat to get players in your neighborhood, in your state, this was more for state schools, right? If you're going to go in your state, do what you want. Do what you got to do. Keep your home talent. You want to pay somebody, you want to bend the rules, break the, that's okay. But if you come into my state to try to get a guy that I'm recruiting, I'm going to turn up the heat on you. I'm going to turn you in. So there was a code, knowing that the NCAA was never going to catch everybody, but I will protect my neighborhood. So maybe that's what these coaches have to establish to try to corral some of the madness. In the meantime, with there being no system, there's got to be a code, right? Because every day somebody's breaking the code now. Somebody's testing the boundaries. Right now, there don't appear to be any boundaries. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, and that's the point.
That's what Juracek, I think, is trying to get at. We need to have something that is a barrier.
And that's why I bring up, these, because if you leave it up to the NCAA, nothing's going to get done. It's not, because they understand truly, like, listen, we don't have a say really in what the Big Ten, SEC, what they're doing. I mean, Big 12, ACC, we can talk about the Pac-12 because they ain't got but 2 teams or 3 teams, so we can manage that. But the other ones, there's too much money involved, all this other stuff. Until those 4 conferences, it may end up being 3, but until those 4 conferences decide and figure out how are we going to navigate this moving forward, is it beneficial to all parties to set up some type of collective bargaining? Is it beneficial to go down that road? And if it is, then how do we facilitate that? Because that's going to take a little time. But I think these are all the conversations that they need to be having, because every month it seems like something else grows from the NIL base, like some tentacle grows out, and then some guys doing this that coaches are complaining about, some guys are doing this that hadn't been done, the whole Nico thing never been done, basically leave when all options are, there's no more options to get quarterbacks.
Because here's what Juracek was pushing for, right? Nico's brother didn't go into the portal until I'm sure the deal was done, right? By back channels. Oh, my brother's going to UCLA. Oh, I can get X by leaving Arkansas to go. I've made an agreement with Arkansas
I'm just going to break the agreement. And this is all done before he goes into the portal, right? He goes into the portal, and a day later, he's going to UCLA. That didn't just happen naturally. We know that was probably going in all along while Nico was going through his thing with Tennessee. That's probably was in the works for weeks. And so I'm sure coaches and programs are saying, we have a deal. We have a deal.
I get it.
You have to be able to sleep at night knowing that if you have a deal, both sides agree, we can live with those deals.
See,
if I have a deal to go with, drive down the right side of the road on a 2-lane road, I have to be able to trust that you are under the same deal, or else we got a problem. If we're zigzagging, it doesn't apply to me. I'll go on the wrong side of the road. We got a problem, a big problem.
Okay.
Somewhere in here, there's got to be some order that everybody abides by, that we can't push the envelope.
And I agree with you. But as we sit right now, there isn't no guidelines. There's no
yellow line down the middle of the road.
Yeah, there's no yellow line down the middle of the road saying you stay on this side or you stay on that side. No, there's nothing. So until they make up those rules, and I'm with you, Willie, that if you sign a contract, then especially after a year, then honor it if it's a multi-year deal. But that is not where we are at this present moment. There seems to be no rules. Again, if there are rules, they are so lax, it's pathetic that a guy or a girl can sign a contract or can sign an NIL deal before they get into college. And then right at the last minute, they can say, you know what? I don't want to go to said university anymore. I want to go to this university. There should be something in place where no, at least this first year, no, you need to honor that contract. But in the same with if a guy goes in and he gets hurt or he doesn't win a starting job, well, you need to honor that contract for that year, both sides. And then you can move forward. The minute you start signing contracts that has money involved, see, the scholarships, yeah, there's money involved, but it's not exchanging. I'm not giving you a check and you giving, for services. It's a scholarship. So that's a little bit different. But even those are year to year, but in a contract that has to deal with money, it's like if you sign it, this is the way it should be. If you sign it and everything's fine, then at least no matter what, if I get hurt and can't play, the contract is still honored. And if I am not happy here, then I got to stay for that I got to stay for the remainder of the year to honor the contract. That's the way it should be. But unfortunately, it's not that way.
615-737-1025. We'll get back into the Titans coming up next as Jared Stillman joins us as we transition from DVD to Stillman & Company. That's coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Hey, are your monthly bills keeping you up at night? You worried about your finances in these crazy times? I don't blame you. It's Willie. And if you're like most people, you've racked up a sizable amount on your credit cards, and the monthly payment may not be making a dent in it. So call Loan Pronto, because if you own a home, you've got a super easy way to get tens or even hundreds of $1,000s in cash. Loan Pronto has options for helping you tap into your home's equity and get the cash that you need to get back on solid footing. Most homeowners who do this end up wiping out all their credit card debt and cutting their monthly expenses by $1,000. You don't have to keep stressing about money. So call Loan Pronto for fast debt relief now. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. As we transition from DVD to Stillman and Company, we bring in Jared Stillman, who I imagine is seated at his desk with an extra strength bottle of Mylanta, maybe some Pepto-Bismol, that heartburn, that indigestion, upset stomach, maybe even diarrhea because of the impending doom that Jared Stillman seems to have about the first round of the NFL draft. How is that impending doom feeling today, Jared?
Or
Well,
do
I
you
don't
got
want to
a
be
diaper in your
incredibly
hand?
morbid. Well, I just don't want to be incredibly morbid here, but it's kind of like when somebody dies. We
Oh
have the
my
surprise deaths, heart attacks and things like that are just shocking and depressing. This has been kind of a slow coming, like it's not a surprise. This Cam Ward thing had been brewing for a while. I am struggling to figure out how the Titans plan to supplement the young quarterback for success. I think there's a lot of people inside the fan base that don't think that the young quarterback needs help, that the young quarterback will be a success no matter what, which I don't think very often happens. It has happened before, but again, I don't think that it happens very often in the National Football League, but this is not a surprise. So tomorrow, when Commissioner Goodell says that the Titans have selected Cameron Ward, which is what Goodell will say, apparently he'll go by Cam, but they'll call him Cameron tomorrow night. When that happens, I don't think he'll have a huge freak out on the draft show as we're used to, like when they decided to draft a guard with the 11th overall pick a couple of years ago, which, by the way, Vrabel may do again. He may draft another short-arm tackle in the first round. So, other than that, I am very excited for our draft show at Twin Peaks. But no, I don't think it'll be the meltdown everybody's used to.
But that's the best part of the draft show. So it's going to be up to Derek and Chris and Trevor to manufacture some sort of outrage so that you can get upset. Because if I recall,
I was thinking about this.
Yes.
I am wondering when I get to host my parade, because at the draft show last year,
I was just about to ask
famously
you about
declared-
this. Yep.
Yeah, I famously declared at the draft show last year that I was going to throw a parade when Rand Carthon got fired. And I don't even think I, at the time, thought that a year later we'd be doing the draft show and he'd be fired. I mean, I knew they would be terrible, but I didn't think he'd get fired. And so here we are with no Rand Carthon. Now, I didn't think they'd be stupid enough to promote his lieutenant to be in charge. But again, it's like I told you last year on the draft show, Derek, when you said it's so simple, why are you so stressed out? And I said, because the Titans are stupid. And I stand by that.
I don't go that far to say they just haven't been what we thought they should be. Last couple of 2.5, 3 years. I don't think they're a stupid franchise, incompetent franchise. Hopefully the move she's made by hiring Barganzi and elevating Brinker, hopefully it puts this team back on the track. But
do you think it's an accident that they're picking first tomorrow night?
No, I don't think it's. I mean, I've always said this roster wasn't good. Like the depth of this roster wasn't good. Now I am surprised how bad they were, but I didn't think that realistically. Like, listen, this team, the roster's bad. They don't have any depth. They have to. If they're going to be a good team, which I said they had to stay healthy. That was my main thing. If they stay healthy, they will be a good team. Well, this team didn't stay healthy and the offensive line didn't improve. So I'm not surprised that they're picking number one.
I do.
By the way, I do wonder this for you guys. When you guys heard Brian Callahan say yesterday that he feels confident he can coach Cam Ward because I've done this before, I do wonder how you guys felt about that.
Willie?
I don't pay much attention to that. I do want to ask you this, Jared, because I think you pushed the narrative, and I think in a perfect world, this would be the idealism versus realism question, right? That we all had in school somewhere. The expectation of the 1-1 is very, very high. We did the study. This is the 90th draft. I don't know if you heard our show earlier, but how many of the 90 or how many of the 89 first overall picks, regardless of position, are in the Hall of Fame?
7.
Actually, more than that. There are 15 number one overall picks in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Hold on, I'm going to try to guess. We're not going to take the whole time doing this trying to guess, but I'm going to try to guess them off the top of my head.
All right, let's
Elway.
just boil it down to the quarterbacks. There's 28,
Okay, Elway, Manning,
28 quarterbacks. 4 are in the Hall of Fame.
In the common draft era.
Elway, Manning, Bradshaw, and Aikman.
Correct.
Yep.
Right. So for every one of those guys, there are at least as many, if not more, depending on your definition of a disappointment and a bust. And you usually go pretty high on that, Jared. Because your standard's so high, right? So history tells us that you've got more of a chance of a bust picking a quarterback 1 as a Hall of Famer. So where do you stand on that? Knowing what the facts are and your expectation and knowing what you believe of Cam Ward. He will never live up to your expectations, I don't think.
And before you answer that question, the reason why we did that research was because I was listening to your show yesterday and I heard the Pat Kerwin clip that you played.
The gold jacket.
So
guy,
I
right?
took it. I perhaps took it too literally, but I was like, okay, I wonder how many number 1 overall pick quarterbacks have been Hall of Famers. And then in the common draft era, it's 4 of 28.
Well, I think one thing that we have to look at is the reason that I think there's only 4 quarterbacks that have been Hall of Famers from the number 1 pick is not because the number 1 picks usually aren't that good. I think it's as much of the franchises that are picking them are not well-run franchises. I mean, is Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville? I think we can agree what he was supposed to be as a prospect, he has failed to reach in his career. And is that because Jacksonville decided to pair him with a running back in the first round that same year right out of the gate and decisions like that? And Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, did he not work out because Cleveland's stupid? And I mean, look where Cleveland's picking this year. So I think that one thing that we kind of forget is, yes, some of these teams do pick these quarterbacks number 1, but a lot of times these are really lousy organizations and they stay lousy for a reason, and it's beyond the quarterback.
And that's what I have been saying the whole time. And this is why I think it's not about necessarily Cam Ward. It's about who's drafting Cam Ward. Because if, let's just say, hypothetically, if Kansas City had a bad year, horrible year, or Pittsburgh, let's just say that Pittsburgh had a horrible year, they were drafted number 1. I don't think people would be looking at Pittsburgh and saying, don't draft Cam Ward. No, you know why? Because they believe that Pittsburgh can develop a quarterback, or they believe that some of these other franchises that have been winning consistently for a long time, they can develop quarterbacks. Every time that I ask about the Cam Ward question, what comes to me is the Titans, development. We don't trust them. So is it you don't trust Cam or you don't trust the organization?
This goes down.
I think it's the organization.
And that's why, Jared, I think we should all be fair about our expectation level when they draft Cam Ward. I'm going to be I'm going to be a realist. I feel like you're going to lean more idealist and hold him to that standard, but I think he is who he is. We know he is not the number 1 talent in this draft.
Well, I would argue that the way that, and Mel Kiper said this perfectly the other day, the Titans are trying to hit a home run here. They're trying to take the talent that Cam Ward has, and he's got talent. I mean, those off-platform throws that he can make, you do not teach that. And so I think what they're trying to do is they're hoping that they can mold that into a Mahomes-type player. I certainly would bet against that happening, but I think that's kind of their hope and their goal here is to develop him into a superstar-type quarterback with the natural abilities that he has. And to your point, Willie, I mean, Andy Reid with a perfect plan got that out of Mahomes. But Andy Reid is not coaching this team, and Andy Reid is not running this team, and Tyreek Hill is not at receiver, and Travis Kelce is not at tight end, and Eric Fisher is not at left tackle. And so it's hard for me to believe that Mahomes would have become Mahomes in this current situation right now that the Titans have.
I think that's a good bet. Now, Jared, before you start your show, I want to make sure, I know you've got a toddler, newborn. Did you get a good night's sleep last night? Or were you up late?
This is going to sound bad. I think I got a decent night's sleep now. I woke up a little bit early this morning, and
okay. So
sitting there watching Simple Songs, but I think I got a good night's sleep.
Okay.
I'm not so sure.
So did you stay up and watch any late games at all?
No, I didn't watch any games.
Okay. So did you pay any attention to any scores that might have come from the late games last night?
What happened in hockey, Willie?
There was a final score from Las Vegas that you might want to take note of.
John Hines won a playoff game?
Yes, he did.
I mean, we
dominated
the last time
the Vegas Golden Knights. Dominated.
the last time, well, John, the Marsh Show says take a page out of there, but the last time John Hines won a playoff game, you had to wear a mask walking around. That's how long ago it's been. Congratulations to him.
But you guaranteed
You took it to
on
the bank.
Friday that they would be swept. So we just wanted to
Did
point that
I?
out. Yes, you did.
Yeah,
See, you
did
mean
I?
the same thing.
That was only last Friday, Jared. It wasn't last month.
We'll see. And we'll see. Hey, we'll see if
Fatherhood has
Shedeur
got your
goes in the
brain
first
burned
round.
that quickly, man.
Congratulations to John Hines.
It's only step
Do we
one.
know if Andrew Burnett's keeping his job
they're
or not?
going back-
When are we finding out about that one?
That's a good question. It's a good question. We thought we were going to hear from Barry Trotz today. That is not the case, but that'll do it for us. We'll be back on draft day tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Of course, Stillman and Company coming up next.
Be love, love, and your people. Have a safe, blessed, wonderful Wednesday. Peace.